Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Writing Podcast. I'm your host Adam, and as always, I'm here with my co-host Lindsay Broker. We have a good one here for you today. We have Dan Wood on from Draft2Digital. Dan, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me, Adam.
Our pleasure for sure. So it's interesting to have you on because I've seen podcasts with some of the other aggregates or the we had Mark on recently from Kobo, going direct with Kobo and things like that. And I haven't actually watched any of your stuff. I know you've been on a couple before, so or at least talked about Draft Digital on some different writing sites and things, which I've read, but I never got to get our questions asked, go into the really nitty gritty stuff. So I'll start off with just figuring out how you got started in all this, and especially how you got on board with Draft2 Digital.
Podcast. So,
All right, I think you may be breaking up. So we were talking before the show that Dan is in Oklahoma, and they have some storms right over his head, I think. So um, if you can hear me again, Dan, you are breaking up, so you may want to try switching off the camera or something.
yeah, I'll get it switch off and see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're right in the middle of tornado season here in Oklahoma, so
no worries. Like I was saying, we'll be driving right through there here soon, so hopefully by some miracle we'll miss it all. But so were you able to hear my question, or was it breaking up on your end also?
I heard the part where you're talking about that you'd been talking to a couple of the other sites, but I didn't hear the rest of it.
Oh, okay. So I just asked, trying to figure out where you got started with all this self-publishing, and especially obviously Drafted Digital, how you got on board with the company and what your role is there.
Well, Draft2Digital started because one of our good college friends was a writer and had been pursuing the traditional publishing contracts in fantasy, and was not having any luck. And he started reading J.A. Conrath and all the different people talking about self-publishing back in 2010, I believe, right around there. Um, so he took the dive into self-publishing and really hated all the tools that were out there at that moment for making all the digital formats that you needed to submit your books to the different places like Amazon and Apple and Barnes and Noble. So developer backgrounds and IT backgrounds and made a tool. It's more of a thing to help him, but then they realized, hey, this really could be a full-time business. So that they went ahead and were developing that until about 2012. It was like the end of December of 2012 is when we opened up our beta. I wasn't with the company at that point. I was one of the early investors. But I kind of had been paying attention all along this whole process. And then I joined the company towards the end of 2013, and was head of operations and really just tried to make sure we were getting all of our books through and up, and then looking for new sales channels. And I've been doing that for about a year, and we just had tremendous growth lately. And so now I've been focusing more on author merchandising and looking for new sales channels.
Awesome. So I know you said you weren't with the company. I mean, you were an investor, but you weren't working with the company in the beginning. So I did want to ask, though, if you know, right off the bat, was it always going to be an aggregate for the different publishers, or did it originally just start off as a place for someone to go get all their formats to, upload on their own, or was it always going to be that aggregate service?
The intention was to always be an aggregator. We saw an opportunity in the market both for uh, helping like new authors and helping authors that were coming out of traditional publishing that had not had experience. One of the things we're famous for is our customer service, and we've really invested a lot in having phone support, having email that gets back to you within 24 hours. Um, and authors have a whole lot of different stuff they have to you're also doing all your marketing. And so we just try to help manage your catalog and convert your books into beautiful ebooks.
Right, and I've actually used Draft2Digital. I still have some books on there actually, and it is good service. We've needed customer support a couple of times, and it's always been really quick. So I agree that you guys have done a good job on that front for sure. That we've never went wondering, if our message was received or anything like that. So. All right, so I wanted to ask a couple of questions, kind of about why people should go with Draft2Digital before I pass it over to Lindsay to talk more about the marketing side of things. So when people are getting started now, more than ever, they have so many choices. The main ones, of course, is either going with Smashwords, now you guys, Draft2Digital, or trying to figure out how to go directly to every channel. So is there, when someone's trying to decide, what are the advantages of going with Draft2Digital over, say, Smashwords or going direct everywhere?
You kind of broke up a little bit on me there, but I think I caught most of the question. Um, a good reason a lot of people end up working with Draft2Digital is to just save themselves time. As opposed to uploading your book and all of your tax information directly to all the places that allow you to go direct. You can come to Draft2Digital and upload it once, make any changes you need to, like pricing changes or description changes at one place, and I think that's really where we hear most people are, they just don't have the time to do everywhere themselves, or in some cases there are some of the distributors don't let you self-publish if you're from a different country, or end up getting a lot of people to begin with, and then just having that person they can talk to when they have questions about the industry has been pretty key to keeping people. Some of our advantages over Smashwords have just always been speed. We are a good deal of our company came out of an IT or development background, and so we automate a whole lot of things. We've heard time and time again how fantastic our manuscript converter software is. We don't have to have a style guide or anything because we can do a pretty good job with the majority of Word documents we get and converting them over. Where it doesn't work very well, we have someone you can say, I need help, and then we have some of our staff that will go through and figure out what went wrong. In some cases, we just manually fix those problems, and in some cases, we go ahead and add that into our development cycle so that we can fix our EPUB converter to be even better. We pay monthly, which is a big thing to most authors that we talk to, who, with a lot of the different places, especially the aggregators, you might get a quarterly payment. And so we really don't hang on to money. We go ahead and as soon as the sales channels pay us, we get it out within about from what I hear from people, they love the fact that they have a phone number and can call someone and talk to them. Everything via email, and I know everyone's probably experienced getting a cryptic email from Amazon and not knowing what in the world does this mean. So we just don't believe you can do everything with email.
Right, for sure. And you mentioned the formatting service that Draft2Digital does and how it's automated and better. I have to agree with that. I've used different meat grinders, so to say, on different sites before I was more formatting savvy, and I never had any trouble with Draft2Digital other than one time with the table of contents. But again, I messaged and we got that fixed within a day. So I do have to say that the formatting there does seem to go a lot more smoothly than other places that I've used. So one thing I wanted to ask before I pass over to Lindsay is, lately on our show, people we've talked to, recently we talked to Mark from Kobo, and there's been a lot of forum threads pop up and things is about stats for authors. So you guys being an aggregator, do you get additional stats from the companies that you publish through, and then what all stats do you give to the author for their book sales, and how delayed is that they see sales on their dashboard and things like that?
We do a mix of, we get daily estimates. So within 24 hours for all of our sales channels except for Scribd and Tolino at this point, you'll get an update on the dashboard that lets you know how many sales you made yesterday. That's going to be based off of what the companies report, kind of like Amazon reports the next day in a lot of cases. Apple reports next day. Those numbers are slightly how they pay out, like the accounting numbers work, because the accounting numbers are based on when the transaction completed. But if you're running a promotion or something, you're going to get some feedback the next day, monthly. We do get a little bit more information from Scribd, like some different reading stats that we pass on to authors if they ask.
No, I think we lost him for a moment. So do you see him gone as well on your dashboard, Lizzie?
Yeah, it says he left the chat, so I guess now's the opportunity to talk about him behind his back.
I was just checking earlier to mention while we're waiting on him, the Draft2Digital site recently went through an overhaul as well, and I think is a lot better. It used to be a really plain site when you went there, and I don't know, within the last couple weeks maybe, it looks like they've rehauled the entire website. So I was looking at that, and it looks a lot nicer. And I definitely don't want to diss any place or person on the podcast with people listening publicly, but there is another aggregate site that I've been waiting for a big graphics overhaul and UI overhaul of their Smashwords website for a while, and it's kind of painful to look at sometimes. But Draft2Digital site is really nice and clean. I'm actually doing some more investigative work and logging into it while we wait. So.
Yeah, it probably helps if you have some developers as kind of the company founders and that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, I guess we will wait a little bit on Dan, and if he doesn't come back, I guess we'll have to delete the 18th show for a week or redo it at some point. So, but like you said, he's under tornadoes at the moment, so there's no telling what's going on over there. So.
Yeah, I've actually never been on their site except to email them once because I was with Smashwords since I got started in like 2010, and it just seemed like way too much work to move things over and try something new. And now I'm almost all of my books, I'm uploading them directly to Apple and Kobo and stuff. So, Smashwords is basically, or them would just be to get into Oyster and Scribd and maybe the libraries. So.
All right, looks like he's coming back in. So let us know when you can hear us again, Dan.
Of course, we probably have to say something for him to hear us.
that may be a good idea. So, well, his picture is back at least, so he's here in spirit now, so that's good. All right, so while we wait,
I think he said, "Can you talk, Dan?" Or we've got him muted.
Yeah, let me.
I think you might have to unmute yourself when you come back into a call that's in progress.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's not letting me unmute him. Yeah, I'm not getting anything, so.
Yeah, I think he has to do it on his end, probably. If you can hear us.
I'm typing to him, so it's okay. I'll cut all this out of the audio, but so this is YouTube exclusive content for everyone.
Well, one of the cool things was, he can't hear us. Uh-oh.
Okay, I can hear now.
Okay, good.
All right.
Good.
So power outage, or
Sorry about that.
you're not in your tornado shelter now or anything, right? Talking to us.
He's showing up as muted again on my thing.
Yeah.
Just Can you hear me now?
Yep. Can you hear us?
Yes, now I can.
All right. So I'll stop typing now. All right. So if you can hear me now, the next question I had before I passed over is I was actually wanting you to tell everyone who you actually can publish to through Draft2Digital, who all you put their, the choices you can choose for your manuscript to get published through. Which vendors?
Right now we do Apple, Barnes & Noble, CreateSpace, Kobo, Scribd, Tolino, which is a German alliance of bookstores over there, and then trying to think if we've got any others. Page Foundry is the one I was leaving off. With CreateSpace, we just format their book for to go to CreateSpace and to be print on demand.
Okay. And I know when we recently on the show did a tutorial on how to get your books onto Google Play because there's so many people that are having trouble with it. Is that one of the ones that you guys are looking to add? And if so, is there a time frame looking to add that? Because I really think that's one that a lot of people would like to get on, but not many people want to figure out the UI there.
We have been talking with Google for a long time now. I don't have an exact time frame, but as you're probably aware, there's a couple of things to do with pricing. Their rules for pricing don't play nicely with Amazon, and so we're hoping to work through some of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was a big part of the tutorial, is to figure out what you need to price at to make sure when they do their discount, it doesn't mess you up on all the other websites. So I can definitely see we're in trouble because unless things have changed, with Draft2Digital, can you choose a different price point per store or per language or anything like that?
You can do a different price point per currency. It's like you can have rather than have us do the price point based on currency conversion, you can choose, because if you have $1.99 USD and we convert it into Canadian dollars, it's going to be an ugly Canadian 199 euro. Right now, we send the same price everywhere to all the different channels.
Okay. So yeah, I can definitely see where it'd be a problem with Google, because if you put 199 on Google, they're probably going to slash it down to like 140 or something like that. I don't know off the top of my head, but they definitely discount just about everything unless it's already at 99 cents. So
yeah,
right.
They have that. They have like a certain amount that they nearly always will cut it. But then the part that always concerned us is every once in a while they will take something to free and not notify you about it. And if the author doesn't know about it, then Amazon price matches it, or worst case scenario, when Amazon and Google Play price match each other for a while. So.
Yeah, I can definitely see it running into some problems. So, all right. Well, hopefully you can get that worked out with them soon. That'd be nice, and find a way where they won't discount it. That'd be really awesome. I'm sure you would get a ton of people coming through you for Google Play for that reason. So, so good luck there. I know Google is a giant, so it may take a long time to get anything worked out. But
we're definitely huge fans of. We think moving's going to be or reading is going to be moving towards mobile phones, as we have these big phablet type phones. We think more and more people are going to be reading off of them, and so Google is a huge part of that strategy, and we hope they change some of their terms a little bit.
Awesome, yeah. I look forward to seeing that. It took me a while to figure out how to upload straight to Google, but like I said, for a lot of people, I still get asked that all the time. So, all right, one last question, and then I'll pass you over to Lindsay. So, one of the things that's obviously most important to authors watching, or most of them, is their bottom line, the money that they're getting. And so with any aggregator, there's going to be some price they have to pay out of their royalties for that service. So with Draft2Digital, can you talk about what cost the author is looking at to get this formatting service and to get it put on to all the vendors' websites?
It kind of broke up on me, Adam, but as far as our costs, we have no upfront cost. Like Smashwords, we do 15% of the net royalty is our cut per sale. So you can list things with us, and it doesn't cost you anything. Once you make an actual sale, we take 15% of net, which in most cases is about 10% of the retail list price. So, for instance, if you had a book that was around $1, we would keep about 10 cents per sale.
Okay, and that seems pretty fair and right around the average for the market, I think, for most aggregators. So, I mean, you're going to pay that percent for the service. Obviously, you guys can't do it for free, or else you wouldn't be in business. But for that, you're going to save possibly dozens or hundreds of hours of time having to go to all those different vendors and keep your tax information up. And if you ever have to re-upload files, you're going to have to do it to each one of those again and again. So it definitely, I think is worth it, especially if you're starting off. Or, like with Apple, you can go through you guys instead of having to have an Apple computer of your own or such. So, which is nice. I still use you guys for that. So.
And stuff like we also, I think sometimes people miss that. Going direct in a lot of cases, you will have kind of artificial price limits, like where you can't list at $2.99 or below, or they'll cut your royalties, and you don't have that with us. If you have got a 99-cent book, you're going to earn the same amount of royalties as sites. We make sure the metadata is correct everywhere, because it does change over time. Apple has changed the way they display series, and so we go out of our way to make sure your series links look right at Apple, because we believe that helps sell more books.
Awesome, yeah, and it does help. Like you said, one of the founders of the company was self-publishing also, and they wanted to get things right for themselves. So there's no one that's going to treat your stuff better than you will. So if it's an author, leading the company and doing these things, they're definitely going to be looking out for the best interests of authors, not just their bottom line. So that's nice to hear too.
Definitely.
All right, awesome. So I will go ahead and pass you over to Lindsay. She has a bunch of questions for you, and hopefully, the storm holds out for her to get them all through to you before we run out. So.
I sure hope so.
All right, well, I'm going to try to ask the stuff that all authors want to know, such as how to sell more books. So I guess I imagine that you have can really see the data, just thousands or tens of thousands of authors, and get a good idea of kind of what's working, what's not. So I was wondering if there's any common mistakes that you see some of the authors making that's harming their potential.
Yeah, we do currently we have 50,000 roughly unique books that we're helping people distribute and manage. It's about 13,000 I see I would say a lot of authors aren't taking advantage of things like pre-orders as much as they should. I know Amazon does not actually kind of penalizes you to some extent for using pre-orders, but all the other vendors, the way pre-orders work with them is that they have extra places where those pre-orders are visible, and you can gain rank as a pre-order, but then on the day of release, they give you all of that rank bump as though all the sales happen on the release date, and so it can get you into the top charts, and being at the top of the charts can generate a lot of additional sales. I see a lot of authors that have covers that aren't genre appropriate, and when I say that, I mean their cover doesn't look like everything else out there for top sellers in their genre. As new people are hiring freelance illustrators and freelance graphic designers, some of those people don't necessarily have a look at when they're trying to tell their graphic designer what they want their book cover to look like, give them some examples of things right now.
All right, can you hear me, Dan? I've kind of lost you there.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know with covers that a lot of people will go to DeviantArt and sites like that and just kind of find a good illustrator, which can be definitely a good idea, but then they don't know anything about the typography and stuff to make it look like a book. So,
Yeah, it's just there are people that try to do their own covers, and there are people out there that succeed at that, but for the most part, you should probably be getting a professional graphic designer, because the cover and the blurb are really the two things you have to sell the book. And so you want to make sure you give them just as much attention as you gave writing the book.
okay, and do you guys do, I'm not I haven't been a customer there yet, although I did have a problem with somebody just a couple weeks ago. My pen name on my books was appearing that was only supposed to be in Amazon KDP Select, and apparently some scammer had put it through Draft2Digital, and I emailed the help there, and I got an answer right away, and it got taken care of, and I was really relieved. So I have to thank you guys, kind of off the topic there, for being so quick with the customer
Not a
service.
problem.
All right, but I did want to ask you if keywords are something that people can enter there as part of the book uploading process, and if that's anything worth paying attention to, or does it help at all?
Yeah, we allow people to enter keywords. It varies by the different vendors. We send the keywords everywhere as part of the Onyx file. Not, it's always good to enter them. Um, I would say into your description. You can't put in. Most of the vendors have rules against having, a big block of search terms at the bottom. But thinking about, if I've got a book about werewolves, having the word werewolf in the description a couple of times can help.
Okay, and do you usually recommend people keep it general, like epic fantasy or sword and sorcery, or is there anything to be gained from going like werewolf, paranormal, romance, novel, kind of a longer, trying to get that long tail thing going?
As many words like that as you could. Uh, I feel like the retailers are catching on to the tricks people are using to kind of optimize their chances. Um, with all of these, I encourage people to go out and look at the stores. Like, I find that a lot of self-published authors are, super familiar with Amazon and like how their categories work, but they haven't really looked at iTunes or Kobo to see how they market books to readers. And so, going and checking your listing on iTunes, making sure it ended up in the category you think it should. Um, is essential, and making sure that the books there kind of look like and fit the same audience that you were looking for your book. uh, Going in and kind of seeing what promotional areas they have, and finding out how to get into those promotional areas.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like good advice, and I've been guilty of not really going in and checking those things myself, especially on Apple, which is funny because I'm an Apple fan. I have all Mac stuff and an iPad, but I really hate their their store as far as shopping for
Yeah,
books. So I'll have to make a note
I,
of doing that.
I find a lot of people that just aren't familiar with the iBook store, and it has been growing so much ever since they added iBooks to every iOS device on the planet and all of the Mac devices. Sometime last fall that they went ahead and installed it as a default application, and we've just seen huge growth. And I really encourage people to take a look at the iBook store if you haven't.
All right, definitely noted. And you mentioned that pre-orders are something that you guys people are able to do now, and I wanted to ask you a few questions about that. You already kind of talked about the advantage of doing it, that those sales would stack up and help your bump at release day. Do you have any thoughts on like how far out an author should attempt to put a pre-order out there?
A lot of the stores have a kind of a 90-day draw. Like, you can set up a pre-order up to 90 days in advance. Um, I would say More than a month. I don't think you necessarily need to go to the 90-day though. So maybe like 2 months in advance is a great way to possibly get into one of those areas where they feature upcoming titles, and then to build those numbers. And over time, Apple notices who has a lot of pre-order numbers.
Okay, and for that, do you need to have the ebook completely finished, or are you able to just kind of put a placeholder up there when you do the pre-order?
We support, we call them no asset pre-orders. You can write into our customer support and we can enable it on your account. So if you don't have most of the manuscript finished, like you don't necessarily have to have your full manuscript and all edited, but if you don't, I encourage you to do like the no asset pre-order. And Apple, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, and Tolino all support those. And then that way you don't have to upload the final manuscript or even have the cover until around the 10-day before release point somewhere to Amazon. You can at most of the vendors, you could put in a placeholder file, but Apple doesn't like them and it causes issues. So we just tell everyone, yeah, set this up as a no manuscript pre-order and go from there.
Okay, and people who have tried it with Amazon are probably going to be wondering if there's any penalties if you do not make that date 10 days before it goes live.
There's not.
All right, do they just kind of push it back if they don't get it, or do they delete it from the store?
They'll allow you to push the date, like you can change the release date. If it reaches the release date and they don't have the final manuscript, then it just goes off the store until they get the final manuscript. But there's no real penalty to missing the release date.
All right, I need to get on the ball myself and start getting some covers done ahead of time so I can take advantage of that too.
We have a lot of people that will set them up and they'll either leave, there's a default placeholder graphic most of them have, and then they'll say, cover coming soon, and they'll use a cover reveal as another marketing moment.
Right, I've seen that on Amazon and Apple now. Do you feel that people still buy the books if they don't have the shiny cover there to appeal to them?
If you don't have a big audience at a particular sales channel, they might not. But if you've got a decent following already, they will buy it no matter what. Like, it's crazy. We have Apple does allow you to set up a pre-order about a year in advance, and we have a series by one of our authors that already has like 1,000 orders for a book in December. So it's amazing to me, but people will buy it, especially, make sure you're putting in your links at the end of your book to the next book.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good
They've
advice.
got so much goodwill towards you. They'll go out and buy it, and you never know. They might have forgotten your book was going to come out, or not even heard your book came out. If you didn't have a pre-order, but with the pre-orders, they can just go ahead and pay for it, and then one day they get an email that their pre-order's ready. So.
Okay, that makes me want to know, can you actually do different files off to the different sites that have like a link that's specific to like Book 2 at Apple, and then a different file for Kobo, or do you just have to list all of your links for all of the stores?
That's a great question. For our system, if you use us to generate your book, like if you give us a Word document and we convert it into an EPUB, we make specific EPUBs for every vendor. So we send them an EPUB with a list of links. It's called the also by section if we generate it. So we send them a set of links to your books appropriate to their store. If you give us an EPUB yourself, it's going to have, we don't EPUBs if you send us one. We don't change anything in it right now, but you can set up multiple book objects if you want to, so that we can have one that goes to Apple, one that goes to Kobo.
All right, that's actually really cool. And does that update your backlist all the time, or is it just like each book as it's published, what you've got out then is included in the back of that book?
It does it as every time you relist that book or make a change to that book, it updates to the most current list. One of our projects, probably for the summer or maybe this fall, is going to be making that system much more robust, where we can do it for EPUBs and where we can have a button that says "Update all my books." Because we think, we hear authors constantly complaining about the amount of work that goes into updating your back matter or front matter, depending on where you list it.
Definitely, that sounds like a really cool upgrade. I may have to try you guys out after all.
We have a lot of people that are already using the feature as it is. Like I said, I think we've got a couple of improvements we really want to make, but it works really well. And we're huge supporters of having links and make sure you've got stuff there, or ask people to sign up for your mailing list. Make to your future books.
Okay, and one of the things that a lot of authors ask, of course, on Kboards and everywhere else is how to actually gain traction at some of these other sites. Like maybe they'll sell on Amazon, but they haven't been able to make headway on Apple or Barnes & Noble or Kobo. I was wondering if you have any recommendations for that.
The biggest one is going to be BookBub. That should come as no surprise, but I've seen, if you're one of those people that is at Amazon exclusively and you're thinking about spreading your wings and going wide, try to correlate that with a BookBub. Try to get a BookBub, and that helps more than just about anything. Free first in the series is probably the second most effective thing you can do. As you come to these new platforms, remember you're not have heard of you, and so having a free first in the series gives them a chance to check you out and see, is this something I like? We have really great sell-through rates for first in series. I've heard that it's stronger at Apple and Kobo than it is at Amazon, for instance, because there's a little bit less competition for those free books. We do free at Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Tolino, basically all of our vendors, although, with a subscription service like Scribd, it doesn't matter. But it's a great strategy. I highly encourage people to write in series, because series just seem to sell better. And just try that free first in a series. With Apple, they have, under most genres, they have a free first in series section. We nominate books every week for those different sections. And so if you're doing that, let us know, contact our customer support, and we try to nominate those books, kind of get them in front of people. Kobo has their free first in series area, and we nominate books for that as well. Barnes & Noble has, they don't feature indie books quite as often as the other places, and they have a little bit longer lead time, but they do have some areas like their Nook Free Fridays, so we try to get books into that area as well. Other than that, some of the smaller sites like Int, and I'm trying to think of all the ones that go everywhere and not just like Fussy Book Reader, Fussy Librarian. All of those can help you get a little bit of traction.
All right, good. And I can definitely say from my own experience that having the first book free is, I've had my first book in my Emperor's Edge series free since like 2011, and that's definitely, I think, what's helped me get sales at iTunes and Barnes & Noble and Kobo pretty regularly. So definitely works.
I know a lot of authors, like the idea of giving a book away is scary, or they don't like it, but you just got to think about the bigger picture of, I hear it described as a funnel a lot of times. It's just one of those things that you do to help sell the rest of the series, and it generally more than pays off for itself. If you look at, your career as a whole, free first in series is still a very strong tool.
All right, and I was wondering, I've seen kind of in this last year that Apple and Kobo and some of these guys have started doing more promotions and inviting indies to be a part of them. Is there anything that somebody using your platform can do in order to like be invited to, be in some promotion coming up or something like that?
Yeah, I go through and I use I nominate books for a lot of those different areas where they have special promotions. I try to use metrics we have on hand, so I try to look and see, hey, is this book doing well at Barnes and Noble, but not so great at Apple, or is this selling strong everywhere but this one channel? And we nominate books. Apple especially has been fantastic to work with. They set out to be source agnostic, and so they don't care if your book is indie. They don't care if it comes from Penguin Random House. Like, they will feature a book if they think it's strong and it has a good story and a good cover. So as far as like working with Draft2Digital or really with anyone, contact whoever your distributor is and ask them the process. I do tend to show favoritism towards books that we have that I know are doing strongly elsewhere, but there's a lot of different areas where reaching out to us and letting us know about your series and what your promotion plans are, we can use that to help pitch your book to the merchandisers at the different sales channels and hopefully get them featured in different places.
All right, cool. Sounds like a good deal. And I was kind of wondering if there's any tricks you need to know. Like, I know Mark said that on Kobo, like a higher price books might actually be more likely to be featured because Kobo ends up making more money, of course, on like a $5.99 title than a 99-cent title. Have you seen that at any of the other stores, or is it something worth considering?
I think Kobo is really the only one that favors the higher price titles. Um, with Apple, you have to keep in mind, and this goes back to the point I made earlier about kind of knowing, looking at the iBook store every once in a while. They have pricing tiers, and so if you've got something like if you send a US dollar price of $3.49, they're going to round it up to the next pricing tier, which would be $3.99. Basically, all of Apple's pricing tiers end in 99 cents for US dollars. So make sure you're doing that. Because if you're not, then it's always going to be cheaper at Amazon. And if it's cheaper at Amazon, Apple's not going to feature you. I know Apple and a lot of the channels. Like if I say, hey, I would like to feature this book, they will go take a look at your author website, and so make sure your author website isn't just links to Amazon everywhere. Make sure you're including a link to all the different other places it is, because they don't like that.
Yeah, I've actually been told that they don't want to be called Apple either. They want to be iBooks. So
Yes, you'll notice I go out of my way to say iBooks and iBookstore all the time.
yeah, I'm not sure I always remember it when I'm putting out my links out there, but I definitely should try to make sure I do it to please them.
Yeah, and it confuses me because I have a PC for work and it's just iTunes, and so sometimes I'll call it iTunes, and then they will email me and tell me, hey, what do you call it, that bookstore? So
Yeah, I think if you actually look at the links, like the URLs, it says iTunes in the links, even to the books. So I don't
yeah.
know. We won't complain. All right, just a couple more questions I have for you, kind of, because you mentioned that you have access to obviously a lot of data. Is there any tips as to like what price points are doing well, kind of for novels, like across the board?
I will say it always varies by genre. Like there's not one price point I can give you that works better than another. It's knowing what's working right now in your genre. Um, like historical romance tends to be support, whereas especially in contemporary romance, like 99-cent serial books are killing it. Uh, and so I would go look at what are the best sellers right now in your genre, and what price point can I do that puts me somewhere in the middle of that? Epic fantasy, tends to be much, much longer, and so I think people are used to spending a little bit more because you don't want to price yourself out, or you might want to try with fantasy writing things. I think it's one of the most awesome things about being an indie is that you have the opportunity to experiment. But I don't think there is any one right price. I've heard many people say that $1.99 is the wrong price. Um, I don't know if our data supports that or not, but most people don't go with $1.99. But I know it's a great price point for certain types of books. Although you don't want to, if you're writing epic fantasy, I wouldn't charge 99 cents. We see $2.99 and $3.99 do very, very well.
All right, good to know. And yeah, as an indie author, we can definitely adapt pretty easily depending on what we see. And I know I've tried to, as an epic fantasy steampunk kind of writer, I've tried to get away from writing these 150,000, 200,000 word novels because you can't really charge that much more for them than you could for something that's 60 or 70,000 words. So.
You really can't. And that's I think some epic fantasy writers didn't adopt to the market quick enough, or adapt. With digital, it just doesn't make sense to write that big of a book, like it might have 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I think many people would be much happier with George R.R. Martin in Game of Thrones if he had been steadily releasing smaller books instead of making us wait 10 years between books for very, very, very big books.
Yeah, and there's something to be said right now for being able to publish something, every few months rather than, having people forget about you in between, for sure.
Definitely. Algorithms tend to favor not constant release, but steady release throughout the year. I think 2 to 3 months. Like if you can hit that 3 month mark every time, that's a good publishing.
All right. Well, I just had one more question before handing you back over to Adam to kind of close things up. I was wondering, from my own personal experience, I have a pen name now, and that's kind of why I'm still using the distributors for places where with my other names, I just upload it directly because I do have Apple and Kobo that I just do. But I don't know if I was curious if it's the same way there, is if you don't want to like make a whole legal entity for this person with their own account, banking account information and everything for like Barnes and Noble. Do you guys have any? Is it pretty easy to go through with the pen name, or do you need to do anything special?
It's really simple. You have a Draft2Digital account with us, and then you can set up as many pen names or publisher names as you want to. We have a lot of small presses that work with us. So rather than make you have multiple accounts or have anything special, we just set up our system to accommodate that. It's very easy. One of the advantages to going with an aggregator is also that you've got some anonymity, where for the places that show seller, you don't have to contact Apple and beg them to use your LLC name. It just shows up as us as the seller. But we have a lot of people that have 10, 15 pen names and can easily manage it. And we've got some of our royalty accounting spreadsheets break down in such a way that you can see how much came in under each different pen name or publisher name.
All right, that's good to know. And that is one thing that I noticed when I first uploaded on Kobo. They make it really easy to do a pen name too, but I did notice that it showed up in the like customers, if you liked this, you might also like this with my regular name. So there wasn't much separation there. So I could see where having that separation would be a good idea.
Yeah, it definitely can be depending on what you're writing. If you're writing in two different genres that are, if you're writing kids books and contemporary romance, you probably want that separation.
Yeah, you don't want those guys reading the kids stuff and then you get your 50 Shades of Grey recommended over here on the side.
Yeah, that wouldn't make the moms and dads happy.
All right, well, thanks for answering my questions. I'm going to go ahead and hand you back over to Adam here to close things out.
Thank you, Lindsay.
All right, so it seems like the cutting out wrapped up about 10 or 15 minutes ago at least. So, just as we're wrapping things up, it finally dies down for us. That's okay. I'm pretty sure that anyone listening can get a lot out of what came through, and the sentences that were missed here and there. You can still kind of read the context. And for anyone that is watching or listening later on, if you want to go to any of the links or read more about the company or what you can do through Draft Digital, I'll have the links on thewritingpodcast.com/18 later tonight. So before we close out the show, first off, Dan, thank you for joining us in the middle of a storm even and talking to us, so we appreciate it for sure. Could you let everyone listening later on know where to go to learn more about Draft Digital?
Yeah, you can go to just www.draft2digital.com. If you have any questions, you can email our support directly at support@draft2digital.com. I don't remember our 1-800 number off the top of my head, but if you go to our website, you can look up our phone number if you want to call in and ask any questions. That'd be great. We also have the @Draft2Digital Twitter handle, and if you got any questions for me, you can always hit me up at @DanWood. Okay.
All right, awesome. And for anyone listening that hasn't had any experience with Draft2Digital at all, it's important to note that the web links that Dan just mentioned, the 2 is actually the number 2, so draft2digital.com if you want to go check things out. So again, whether you're just getting into self-publishing or you're wanting to take advantage of what Dan said about saving a lot of time, having those automatic back matter, specialized per vendor, you're also published categories basically at the end of your book when you publish anything, and of course the awesome support that we've learned a lot about today. And I can attest to, I've definitely used it. And as Lindsay said, she's not even a customer there, and she contacted the support about a not plagiarized book, I guess, right? It was your entire book, just title and all, just put on there. So
yeah, those scammers they're just ballsy.
Yeah, didn't even change anything. But again, not a customer, but an author, and they helped her out very quickly as well. So we can definitely attest to the good support over at Draft2Digital. So all those advantages taken into mind when you're trying to figure out who to use to publish everywhere. So again, Dan, thanks for coming on, and we may have to have you back again after you guys get some more features and open up Google for everyone. So.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you very much for having me, Adam and Lindsay. I had a great time. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Luckily, no tornado sirens yet. So.
Yeah, no worries. We can't control the weather. I mean, I wish, but not yet. So. All right. So for anyone watching live, we do have a couple of live viewers. We're actually going to have a second episode today. We're trying to cram in a lot today because I'm going to be moving here soon, and we'll be off the air for a few weeks. So if anyone wants to come back in about an hour, we will have another show with a different guest at 3 p.m. So Lindsay, do you want to mention that guest a little bit before we wrap up?
Oh, you're going to make me actually remember her name here?
I don't remember our guest names.
It's Helen Sedgwick, I think is how you say it, and she is a author and a lawyer, so she's going to answer all the questions on copyright and whether you need to have an LLC and all the questions that authors usually have on the legal stuff.
All right, awesome. So again, anyone listening live, come back in an hour to check that out. Later on, if you listen to this on iTunes, these should be uploaded around the same time, so you won't have to wait. And again, to visit all the links that Dan talked about and get more information on anything we talked about in the show, you can visit thewritingpodcast.com/18 later on. So again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in an hour.
Bye-bye.
Bye.